It was a bright, sunny Saturday, the kind of day that makes you want to run outside and play. The sky was blue, the birds were singing, and the air smelled like fresh grass. For 10-year-old Timmy Jackson, it was the perfect day to set up his little lemonade stand. He had been planning this all week. He dragged out an old, wobbly table from his garage, the kind with chipped paint and one leg shorter than the others. He set it up right in front of his house, on the green lawn where everyone could see it. Then he grabbed a big pitcher of sweet lemonade his mom helped him make. It was bright yellow, with ice cubes floating in it, and it looked so cold and yummy. Timmy even made a sign with big, colorful letters that said, "Lemonade 50 cents." He taped it to the table with a big grin on his face. Today, he was ready to make some pocket money, and maybe buy that cool toy truck he'd been eyeing at the store. Timmy was a happy kid. He had messy brown hair that stuck up in funny places, and his blue eyes sparkled when he smiled. Everyone in the neighborhood loved him, well, almost everyone. The old man next door, Mr. Peters, always waved when Timmy rode his bike by. The lady across the street, Mrs. Carter, sometimes gave him cookies just because he said hi. Even the mailman, Joe, would stop and chat with Timmy about baseball. Timmy was the kind of kid who made people feel good. He was small for his age, but he had a big heart. And today, with his lemonade stand all set up, he felt like a real businessman. He wore his favorite red t-shirt and a pair of shorts with a hole in the knee. He stood behind his table, ready to sell, ready to smile, ready to have fun. But here's the thing, Timmy didn't know it yet, but someone was watching him. Not in a nice way, like when his mom peeked out the window to check on him. No, this was different. This was sneaky. Across the street, behind a fluttery white curtain, two sharp eyes stared out. Those eyes belonged to someone who didn't like kids, she didn't like lemonade, and she really didn't like fun. Her name was Karen, but not just any Karen. She was the HOA Karen. If you don't know what HOA means, it's like a group of grown-ups who make rules for the neighborhood. They decide things like how tall your grass can be or what color your house equals. HOA stands for Homeowners Association. And Karen, she was the bossiest of them all. She loved rules. She loved telling people what to do. And she loved making sure everyone followed her way. Timmy had no idea about Karen yet. He was too busy pouring his first cup of lemonade for himself, just to test it, you know. He took a big sip and grinned. It was perfect, sweet, sour, and super cold. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and looked around. The street was quiet so far. A few cars rolled by and a dog barked somewhere down the block. Timmy waved at a jogger who ran past, but the guy didn't stop. That was okay. Timmy knew people would come soon. It was hot out, and hot days were made for lemonade. He kicked a pebble with his sneaker and hummed a little song, feeling proud of his stand. He imagined his pockets jingling with coins by the end of the day. Maybe he'd even make $5 whole. But while Timmy was dreaming about toy trucks and lemonade, Karen was already planning something mean. She stood at her window, her arms crossed tight over her chest. Her lips were pressed into a thin, grumpy line. She wore a bright pink shirt and flip-flops that made loud slapping noises when she walked. Her hair was piled up on her head like a bird's nest, and her glasses sat low on her nose. She didn't like messes. She didn't like noise. And she really didn't like that wobbly table sitting on the grass where everyone could see it. To Karen, that lemonade stand was trouble. It wasn't neat. It wasn't allowed. And worst of all, it was fun, something she couldn't stand. Timmy didn't see her yet. He was too busy fixing his sign, which kept tipping over because the tape wasn't sticky enough. He giggled as he propped it up with a rock. There, he said to himself, now it's perfect. He stepped back and looked at his little setup. The table wobbled a bit, but it held. The picture sparkled in the sun and the sign looked bright and cheerful. He was ready. He clapped his hands together and waited for his first customer. Little did he know his first visitor wasn't going to be a customer at all. It was going to be trouble, big, loud, flip-flop slapping trouble. See, Karen had rules in her head. Rules she made up, rules she thought everyone should follow. She didn't like kids playing too loud, she didn't like bikes left on lawns, and she really didn't like lemonade stands. To her it was a mess waiting to happen. Sticky cups, spilled drinks, laughing kids, she could already picture it, and it made her mad. She'd spent years keeping this neighborhood just the way she liked it, quiet, boring, and perfect. And now here was Timmy with his silly table and his big smile, ruining it all. She tapped her foot fast, her flip-flops going slap, slap, slap on the floor. Not on my watch, she muttered to herself. She grabbed her phone from the table and started dialing. Timmy, meanwhile, was having the best time. A little girl on a scooter rolled by and waved at him. "Hi, Timmy," she called. "Hi, Sarah," he yelled back, waving so hard he almost knocked over his pitcher. He caught it just in time and laughed. "Phew, that was close," he said. He didn't know Karen was watching every move. He didn't know she was already talking to someone on the phone, her voice sharp and loud. He didn't know his sunny day was about to get a whole lot crazier. But that's the thing about surprises. They sneak up on you when you least expect it. So here's my question for you. What would you do if a grumpy neighbor tried to ruin your fun? Would you pack up and go home? Would you tell her to shoo? Or would you do something totally wild? Stick around, because Timmy's about to show us how he handles it. This story's just getting started, and trust me, you won't believe what happens next. It's going to be funny, it's going to be wild, and it's going to make you cheer for the little guy with the wobbly table. Ready? Let's see what Timmy does when the trouble comes knocking. Here comes Karen, not just any Karen, oh no, she was the HOA Karen. HOA stands for Homeowners Association, which is like a club of grown-ups who make rules for the neighborhood. And Karen, she was the queen of those rules. She was the kind of person who always peeked out her window looking for something to complain about. If a kid left a toy on the lawn, she'd grumble. If someone's dog barked too loud, she'd frown. She loved telling people what they were doing wrong, even the tiniest things. And now she had her eyes locked on Timmy's little lemonade stand. Karen marched across the street, her flip-flops making loud slap, slap, slap noises on the pavement. Her face was all scrunched up like she'd just bitten into a sour lemon. She stopped right in front of Timmy's wobbly table and stared down at him. Timmy was pouring a cup of lemonade, his tongue sticking out a little as he tried not to spill. He didn't even see her coming until she barked, "You can't have this here. It's against the rules." Her voice was loud and sharp, like a teacher yelling at a kid who forgot his homework. Timmy looked up at her, his big blue eyes blinking. He didn't understand why she was so mad. But it's just lemonade, he said sweetly, holding up the pitcher. He smiled at her, thinking maybe she'd smile back. But Karen didn't smile, not even a little. She crossed her arms tight over her bright pink shirt and glared at him. I don't care what it is, she snapped. This is a neighborhood, not a playground. You're breaking the rules, and I won't stand for it. Then she pointed her finger right at Timmy's face and said, I'm calling 911. This is a disturbance. Timmy's smile faded. He didn't know what disturbance meant, but it sounded bad. He stood there holding his pitcher, feeling his little heart sink down to his sneakers. Calling 911, that was for emergencies, like when someone got hurt or there was a fire. Was his lemonade stand really that awful? He looked at his table, then back at Karen. He didn't get it. All he wanted was to sell some lemonade and have fun. Why was she so angry? The other neighbors started peeking out their windows. Old Mr. Peachers pulled back his curtain just a bit, his gray hair sticking up like he'd just woken up. Mrs. Carter, the cookie lady, poked her head out her front door, her apron still on from baking. Even the mailman, Joe, slowed down as he walked by, watching with wide eyes. They were all whispering to each other, their voices soft but curious. What's Karen up to now? They mumbled. Poor Timmy, he's just a kid. Everyone knew Karen loved to make a fuss, but this was big even for her. Karen pulled her phone out of her pocket and started dialing. She held it up to her ear, tapping her foot fast. Slap, slap, slap went her flip-flops again. She turned her back to Timmy like he wasn't even there and started talking loud enough for the whole street to hear. Yes, hello 911. This is Karen from Oak Street. There's a boy here with a lemonade stand and it's not allowed. It's a mess and it's loud and it's ruining everything. She waved her free hand around, pointing at Timmy's table like it was a pile of trash. Timmy just stood there, his hands getting sweaty around the pitcher. He didn't know what to say. He wanted to tell her it wasn't a mess, it was his lemonade stand. He'd worked hard to set it up. But Karen's voice was so loud and her finger kept pointing and he felt smaller and smaller. The neighbors kept watching, their whispers getting a little louder. She's calling the police on Timmy, Mrs. Carter said, shaking her head. That's too much, even for Karen. Mr. Peters nodded, muttering, she's gone too far this time. But here's the thing, Karen didn't know something big, something huge. While she was yelling into her phone, acting like she was the boss of the whole world, something was sneaking up on her. It was like a shadow in the night, quiet and sneaky, waiting to surprise her. Timmy didn't know it either, not yet. He was too busy feeling sad and confused. His lemonade sat there on the table, the ice melting a little in the sun. His sign wobbled in the breeze, the colorful letters looking less cheerful now. He kicked a pebble with his sneaker and looked down at the ground. Maybe he should just pack up and go home. Maybe Karen was right and his stand was a bad idea. But that shadow, it was getting closer. Karen kept talking, her voice getting bossier by the second. Yes, I need an officer here right now, she said. This is serious. He's breaking all the rules. She didn't even look at Timmy anymore. She was too busy being mad, too busy thinking she was in charge. The neighbors kept whispering, some of them frowning, some of them giggling behind their hands. They knew Karen was loud, but calling 911 over lemonade, that was wild even for her. Timmy's heart felt heavy, like a big rock was sitting on it. He didn't want trouble. He didn't want the police to come. He just wanted to sell his lemonade and make people happy. He looked at Karen, her flip-flops still slapping, her finger still pointing. He didn't understand why she hated his stand so much. It was just a table, a picture, and a smile. What was so wrong with that? He took a deep breath and tried to stay brave. Maybe if he stayed quiet, she'd go away. Maybe she'd get tired of yelling and leave him alone. But that big, huge thing Karen did know, it was almost here. It was like a secret hiding in plain sight, waiting to jump out and change everything. Karen thought she had all the power, standing there with her phone and her rules. She thought she could scare Timmy and make him disappear. But she was wrong. Something was coming, something that would turn this whole mess upside down. And when it did, Karen's grumpy face was going to look pretty silly. Stick around, because this story about to get a lot more exciting. Timmy didn't cry. He didn't run home to his mom even though Karen was being super mean. Nope, he stayed right where he was, standing behind his wobbly little lemonade stand. He took a deep breath and kept his cool. A nice old lady named Mrs. Harper stopped by just then. She had white hair and a big smile, and she walked with a cane that tapped the ground. "Oh, Timmy, what a lovely stand," she said in her soft, shaky voice. "Can I have a cup of your lemonade?" Timmy nodded fast, happy to have a customer. He grabbed a plastic cup and poured the lemonade carefully, making sure not to spill. The ice clinked in the cup and the yellow drink looked so cold and yummy. "Here you go," he said, handing it to her with a big grin. Mrs. Harper gave him a shiny quarter and a dime, 35 cents. Timmy dropped the coins into his little jar and smiled even wider. "Thank you," he said. He felt proud, like a real businessman. Mrs. Harper sipped the lemonade and nodded. This is delicious, Timmy. Best lemonade I've had in years," she said. Timmy's cheeks turned pink. He liked making people happy, and Mrs. Harper's kind words made him forget about Karen for a second. But only for a second, because Karen was still there, and she was still mad. Across the street, Karen was on her phone, yelling loud enough for everyone to hear. "Yes, hello 911, this is an emergency," she shouted. "There's a dangerous situation here. A boy with a lemonade stand is causing trouble." She waved her arms around like she was swatting flies, her flip-flops going slap 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 on the pavement. She acted like Timmy was some kind of master criminal, like he was robbing a bank instead of selling lemonade. "He's breaking the rules," she kept saying. "It's a mess, it's loud, someone needs to stop him." Her voice was so shrill it made a squirrel run up a tree. Timmy heard her, but he didn't look up. He just kept pouring lemonade for Mrs. Harper and sipping his own cup. The cold drink felt good on his tongue and it helped him stay calm. He didn't want to fight with Karen, he just wanted her to go away. But Karen wasn't going anywhere, not yet. She kept talking on the phone, her face getting redder and redder. "Yes, I need an officer here right now," she said. "This is serious." She pointed at Timmy's stand again, like it was the worst thing she'd ever seen. But then something happened, something quiet, something sneaky. While Karen was busy yelling and waving her arms, a police car rolled up behind her. It didn't make a sound, no siren, no loud engine, nothing. It just glided to a stop right there on the street. The car was shiny and black, with big letters on the side that said police. Timmy saw it out of the corner of his eye, but he didn't say anything. He just took another sip of lemonade and watched. Mrs. Harper saw it too, and her smile got a little bigger. She patted Timmy's hand and whispered, "Oh, this is going to be good." The neighbors started noticing the car too. Mr. Peters peeked out his window and grinned, showing his missing tooth. Mrs. Carter stepped onto her porch, her hands on her hips, giggling a little. Even the mailman, Joe, stopped walking and leaned against a mailbox to watch. They all knew something Karen didn't. Their grins got wider and their whispers turned into quiet laughs. "Here it comes," Mr. Peters muttered. "She's in for it now," Mrs. Carter said under her breath. They were excited, like they were waiting for the best part of a movie. Karen didn't see the police car. She was too busy blabbing on her phone. "Yes, hurry up," she snapped at the 911 operator. "This boy is ruining the neighborhood." Every word she said made her sound sillier. She thought she was in charge, like she could boss everyone around. She thought calling the police would scare Timmy and make him pack up his stand. But every second she talked, she was digging herself deeper, like a kid digging a hole in the sand that keeps getting bigger and bigger. She had no idea what was coming. No idea at all. Timmy stayed calm. He wiped his hands on his shorts and looked at the police car. He wasn't scared. He didn't know why it was there, but he wasn't worried. He just kept sipping his lemonade, the ice clinking in his cup. He watched Karen yell and stomp her feet, and he wondered why she was so mad about something so small. His stand wasn't hurting anyone. It was just lemonade, but Karen didn't see it that way. To her it was a big problem and she was going to fix it, or so she thought. The police car sat there, quiet as a mouse. The windows were dark so no one could see who was inside, but the neighbors kept grinning like they knew a secret, and they did. See, Karen thought she was the smartest person on the street. She thought she could call the police and make Timmy go away. But every time she opened her mouth, she was making things worse for herself. That police car, it wasn't just any car. There was something special about it, someone special inside it. And that someone was about to change everything. Timmy didn't know what was in the car yet. He didn't know why the neighbors were smiling. But he could feel something big was coming. He took another sip of lemonade and looked at Karen. She was still yelling, still waving her arms, still acting like she owned the whole world. "Yes, I need help right now," she said into the phone. "This is unacceptable." Her flip-flops slapped the ground harder and her glasses slid down her nose. She looked silly, but she didn't know it. The neighbors kept watching. Mrs. Harper finished her lemonade and put the cup down. "You're a good boy, Timmy," she said softly. "Don't let her bother you." Timmy nodded, feeling a little better. He didn't want to fight with Karen, but he wasn't going to let her ruin his day either. He stood tall behind his stand, his red t-shirt bright in the sun. The police car stayed parked, waiting. And Karen, she kept talking, digging that hole deeper and deeper. What was in that police car? Oh, you'll see soon enough. It's a surprise, a big one. Karen thought she was winning, but she was about to find out she wasn't as smart as she thought. Timmy didn't know it yet, but his little lemonade stand was about to turn into the best story this neighborhood had ever seen. Stick around, because things are heating up and it's going to get wild. The police car sat there, quiet and still, like it was waiting for the perfect moment. Karen was still yelling into her phone, her voice loud and bossy. "Yes, I need an officer right now," she said, waving her arm like she was directing traffic. She didn't even notice the car door starting to open. But Timmy did. He peeked over his lemonade pitcher, his big blue eyes wide. The neighbors did too. Mr. Peters, Mrs. Carter, and even Mrs. Harper leaned forward, holding her cane tight. Everyone held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Then the door swung open all the way and out stepped Officer Mike, He was tall and strong, with a shiny badge pinned to his dark blue uniform. The sun glinted off the badge, making it sparkle like a star. He had short brown hair and a serious face, but his eyes were kind, just like Timmy's. Because here's the big secret: Officer Mike wasn't just any cop, he was Timmy's dad. That's right, Timmy's dad was a police officer, and he'd been driving around the neighborhood on patrol when Karen's 911 call came in over his radio. Karen didn't know that yet. Her jaw dropped so low it almost hit the ground. She stood there, frozen, her phone still pressed to her ear. Officer Mike strolled over, his boots making soft thumps on the pavement. He stopped right in front of Karen and looked at her with a calm, steady gaze. "What's the problem here, ma'am?" he asked. His voice was deep and firm, but not mean, just the kind of voice that made you listen. Karen blinked fast, like she couldn't believe her eyes. She stammered, tripping over her words. This stand, it's illegal," she finally blurted out. She pointed at Timmy's wobbly table with its picture and sign, her finger shaking a little. She tried to sound tough, but her voice wobbled too. She looked silly now, not scary. Officer Mike tilted his head and raised one eyebrow like he was confused. "Illegal," he said. "It's lemonade, Karen, just lemonade." He paused for a second, letting that sink in. Then he added, "And by the way, I gave him permission to set it up." Boom, that was it, the big reveal. The neighbors couldn't hold it in anymore. They burst out laughing, loud and happy. Mr. Peters slapped his knee and hooted, "Oh, that's rich." Mrs. Carter clapped her hands, giggling so hard her apron shook. Mrs. Harper chuckled and tapped her cane on the ground, saying, "I told you it'd be good, Timmy." Even the mailman, Joe, grinned and shook his head like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. The whole street turned into a big laugh party, and Karen, her face turned redder than a ripe tomato. She looked like she wanted to disappear. Timmy's mouth fell open too, but not because he was mad. He was surprised, super surprised. He didn't know his dad was coming. He didn't even know his dad had heard Karen's call. See, Officer Mike was out doing his job, driving around to keep the neighborhood safe. When the 911 operator said someone was complaining about a lemonade stand on Oak Street, he knew right away it was Timmy. He told Timmy that morning, "Go ahead and set up your stand, buddy. It's a hot day, people will love it." So when he got the call, he turned his car around and headed straight home. He didn't tell Timmy he was coming. He wanted to see what was going on for himself. Karen didn't have a clue. She thought she'd called the police on some random kid making trouble. She had no idea the troublemaker was the cop's own son. Now she stood there, her flip-flops quiet for once, her phone slipping in her sweaty hand. But it's against the rules," she tried to say again, her voice small and squeaky. Officer Mike crossed his arms and looked at her. "What rules, Karen?" he asked. "It's a lemonade stand. Kids do this all the time. It's not hurting anyone." He pointed at Timmy, who was still holding his pitcher, looking up at his dad with big, proud eyes. "That's my boy," Officer Mike said, "and I'm fine with it." The neighbors laughed even harder. Karen's face went from red to purple, like a grape about to pop. She opened her mouth to say something, then closed it again. She didn't know what to do. She'd been so sure she was right, so sure she could scare Timmy away with her big 911 call. But now she looked like the silly one. The police weren't here to stop Timmy, they were here because of her, and the cop was Timmy's dad. It was the funniest twist ever, and everyone knew it. Timmy finally smiled again. He put his pitcher down and ran over to his dad. "Dad," he yelled, hugging Officer Mike's legs. Officer Mike ruffled Timmy's messy hair and smiled down at him. "Hey buddy," he said, "looks like you're doing great out here." Timmy nodded fast, his cheeks pink with excitement. "Mrs. Harper liked my lemonade," he said. Officer Mike chuckled. "Good job, Timmy, keep it up." Karen just stood there, staring. She dropped her phone into her pocket and crossed her arms tight like she was trying to hide. The 911 operator's voice buzzed faintly from the phone, but she didn't answer. She didn't know what to say anymore. Her big plan had fallen apart, and now everyone was laughing at her. The neighbors kept giggling, whispering to each other. "She called the cops on Officer Mike's kid," Mr. Peters said, wiping a tear from his eye. "Can't make this up," Mrs. Carter added. Officer Mike turned back to Karen. "Anything else, ma'am?" he asked, his voice still calm but with a tiny hint of a smile. Karen shook her head fast, her bird's nest hair wobbling. No, nothing," she mumbled. She took a step back, then another, her flip-flops slapping weakly. She'd lost, and she knew it. Timmy's dad wasn't just any cop, he was the cop who could shut her whole complaint down with one sentence.